My greetings to everyone. In the ongoing series of Finance for Everyone, today we have Introduction to Risk Management. So let us see the definitional aspect of risk management. The process of discovering, analyzing, assessing and minimizing the risk related to a given activity or project is known as risk management. Risk management aims to lessen the risk possibility and effects by creating and putting into practice plans that deal with the possible issues before they arise. So, effects by creating and putting into practice that plans that deals with the possible issues before they arise. So, this identification of possible hazards, evaluation of their effect and the likelihood, and the selection of relevant countermeasures are all part of risk management. A group of professionals with specialized experience in the risk management normally handles this process and collaborates to create efficient risk management plans. Organizations that effectively manage the risk may reduce the losses, enhance the decision making, and boost the overall performance of their projects and initiatives. Numerous writers have discussed the risk management and offered their own definitions in their work. So here are a few illustrations to it. The risk management is the process of discovering, analyzing, responding to the group project risk. According to the Project Management Institute, it entails maximizing the likelihood and effects of favorable occurrences and reducing the likelihood and effects of unfavorable events with regard to project goals. And the failure of risk management, why it's broken and how to fix it. Douglas Hubbard defines the risk management as the discipline of quantifying the likelihood and the severity of harm to the stakeholders' value from accidents, errors, and other uncertainties in operations and their supply chains. Risk management, as defined by Jonathan Moon in his book, Real Options Analysis. It is the process of identifying, assessing, and prioritizing the risk, followed by the coordinated and economical application of resources to minimize, monitor, and control the probability or impact the unfortunate events or to maximize the realization of opportunities. And these concepts, they all revolve around detecting, assessing, and mitigating the risk in order to reduce their potential impact on a project or organization. Now let us see the importance of risk management in the organizations. Any organization, they must practice the risk management because it makes it easier to spot the possible hazards and put preventive measures in place. Here are some of the main justifications for the significance of risk management. Now, it prevents the situations that might harm the organization's reputation, such as the data breaches, the product recalls, or environmental disasters. Effective risk management can assist in preventing these occurrences. The organization may show that it is dedicated to responsible and ethical practices by proactively addressing the hazards. Now coming on to the lessons of the financial losses. If the risks are not managed, the organization may suffer the losses. The company can lessen the probability and the severity of the financial losses by recognizing and reducing the significant risk. It enhances the decision making. The risk management gives the decision makers the knowledge about possible risk and their potential effects, which enable them to make a well-informed decisions. Better decision making and more fruitful consequences for the organization may result from this. The next is it increases the stakeholders' confidence. The successful risk management may boost the stakeholders' confidence, including that of the consumers, workers, and investors. The stakeholders are more likely to have faith in the organization and its leadership when it can be seen that they are aware of the possible hazards and are actively addressing them. It facilitates the proactive planning. The risk management helps the business to prepare for anticipated hazards and create a backup plan in case of unforeseen circumstances. And in case of a crisis, this may enable the organization to react more rapidly and successfully. Overall risk management is very crucial because it aids the business in protecting their reputation, preventing or minimizing the possible dangers, and making a better informed decisions. Now coming on to the different types of risk, and they are the business risk. So let us see their types. The strategic risk, the operational risk, the reputational risk, and the compliance risk. So let us first talk about the strategic risk. This is a form of risk called strategic risk. It results from the business plan of the organization and the choices taken by the top management. Now, this kind of risk is connected to the possibility that the organization won't accomplish its strategic goals or will suffer the consequences as a result of choosing a certain strategic courses. Here is the definition of strategic risk from one author. That is in their essay called Managing Risk, a New Framework. Robert Kaplan and Annette Mikes defines the strategic risk as the risk that affect or are created by an organization business strategy and the strategic objectives. They emerge when the underlying presumptions or the expectations of the plan, they turn out to be false, or when the approach is inappropriately carried out. The examples of strategic risk include investing in a new technology that falls short of expectations, entering a new market that proves to be unprofitable, and pursuing a merger or an acquisition that does not produce the desired results. So these strategic risks are very crucial to the focus on the risk management, since they may significantly affect an organization's long-term success. Now coming on to the operational risk. The internal system, procedures, and the human error of the organization, they all contribute to the operational risk. It is the possibility of suffering a loss due to a supper or ineffective internal procedures, staff and the systems, as well as outside occurrences. So the technology failures, fraud, the human mistakes, they lapse in legal and the regulatory compliance, and the natural calamities are just a few of many potential causes of the operational risk. There are several instances of the operational risk, and they are as follows. The first is a bank suffers a financial and a substantial financial loss as a result of the internal control system's inability to stop the employee fraud. A manufacturer's production is delayed as a result of a problem with its maintenance schedule for the equipment. A retailer's reputation takes a hit as a result of the data breach that exposed the private information of its clients. The capability of an organization to accomplish its goals can be significantly impacted by the operational risk, making it very crucial area of attention for the risk management. Identifying the possible risk sources, evaluating the likelihood and the potential impact of such risk are putting controls and the mitigation methods in place to reduce the chance and effects of the operational failures, they are necessary for effective operational risk management. Now the next is your financial risk. Financial risk is the potential for the loss brought on by the ambiguity of the financial markets and the circumstances. It alludes to the possibility of unforeseen financial losses or financial return volatility. The market fluctuations, the loan defaults, the interest rate changes, the currency fluctuations, and the geopolitical events. They are just a few examples of many variables that might result in the financial risk. Now here is an illustration which I am going to give you about a concept from a renowned financial expert, John C. Hull. Financial risk is the potential for the financial loss that results from unpredictability of a human investment future cash flows. There are numerous variables including the changes in the interest rates, currency rates, commodity prices, equity prices, or the credit risk. It can lead to the financial risk. The next most important risk is a compliance risk. The changes in the rules, insufficient compliance policies and the processes, inefficient training and insufficient monitoring are just a few examples of the variable that can lead to a compliance risk. Here is an example definition from a well-known risk management author, Carl L. Prickert. The compliance risk is the potential for the exposure to the legal or the regulatory sanctions, financial loss or damage to reputation resulting from failure to comply with the laws, regulations or the ethical standards. The compliance risk can arise from a variety of factors, including changes in the regulations, inadequate compliance policies and the procedures, the ineffective training and inefficient monitoring and reporting. Next is your reputational risk. Here an example definition from a well-known risk management author, Mr. Card. The reputation risk is the possibility of unfavorable press coverage or public perception that might harm a company's reputation, the brand or the image. So it is the possibility of suffering the financial loss or the reputational harm as a result of poor public opinion, a decline in the client confidence or harm to the company's brand or image. An illustrative definition is provided by Douglas. Reputation risk is the possibility for unfavorable press coverage, bad public opinion, or harm to a company's brand or image that might cause the company to suffer. So this is what is called as a reputational risk. The financial loss or the reputational harm, the poor quality goods and services, unethical or illegal behavior, data breaches or the cyber attacks, unfavorable media coverage and social media reaction can all be the sources of reputational risk. Here is the process of risk management. So here is identification of the risk, measuring of the risk and followed by its implementation, mitigation and the other policies. So let us do this method in detail. A methodical technique of detecting, evaluating, prioritizing and managing the risk that might have an influence on an organization goals is the risk management process. So let us see these steps one by one. The first step in the process and the procedure is risk identification. Finding the possible risk that might have an impact on the organizational goal is the first stage. In order to do this, the risk must be identified throughout the whole organization, including operational, financial, legal and reputational concerns. The second is your risk assessment. The next stage is to evaluate each risk, livelihood and the potential consequences after it has been identified. So this aids in setting the priorities for the risk and identifying those that demand the greatest attention. The third is risk mitigation. After the risks have been assessed, the next step is to develop the strategies to mitigate or reduce the likelihood or impact of each risk. So this could entail putting the controls in place, transferring the risk via insurance or avoiding the risk entirely. The fourth step is a risk monitoring. The risk should be continuously evaluated to make sure that the risk mitigation measures are working and the new risks are discovered and dealt with. So the risk management is an ongoing activity. The fifth is your risk reporting. Finally, successful risk management necessitates the frequent reporting to the stakeholders, including the management, the board of directors and the external stakeholders. So this will help to verify that goals for the risk management, they are being met by the organization. As the business conditions change, there are some new risks which develop and the risk mitigation techniques, they prove inadequate. The risk management process is an iterative process that requires the continual monitoring and the appraisal of the risk. Now let us see some tools and techniques for the risk management. So, the process of detecting, evaluating, prioritizing the risk, then taking steps to reduce or manage those risks is known as risk management. So, in risk management, a variety of instruments and the methods are employed, including the first step is your risk assessment matrix. Based on their likelihood and effect, the risks are evaluated, prioritized using this particular technique. And on a matrix, the risks are shown with the likelihood on the x-axis and the effect of the risk on the y-axis. So, the second is your SWOT analysis. S stands for the strength, W stands for the weakness, O for opportunities and T for threats. So, SWOT is referred to as SWOT analysis. The internal and external elements that might affect an organization's capacity to meet its goals are identified and analyzed using this particular technique. The third is your Monte Carlo simulation. This statistical method is employed to stimulate the effect of ambiguous factors and the risk on a project's or company's outcome. A variety of potential outcomes and their probability are generated by the simulation. Then we have the next important part is the root cause analysis. This method is employed or determine the root cause of a danger or a problem. It entails continually asking why inquiries until the underlying reason is found. The next is your risk mitigation strategies. So these are the steps made to lessen or eliminate a risk, impact or possibility. The risk avoidance, the risk transfer, the risk reduction and the risk acceptance, they are few examples of risk mitigation measures. The next is your contingency planning. Creating a plan of an action to be followed in case of a danger or disaster is required. The measures that will be done to lessen the risk effect on the organizations are outlined in this strategy of contingency planning. The next is your risk monitoring and control. Risk monitoring and control entails the trafficking risk and acting approximately to keep them within acceptable bounds. Monitoring the efficiency of the risk mitigation measures over time is another aspect of it. Now let us start with the risk management standards and the framework. ISO 31000. It is an international standard for risk management called ISO 31000. It offers the concepts and the recommendations for controlling the hazards in the organizations. It is intended to be relevant to many different kinds of organizations, including both for-profit and non-profit ones, both public and private, big as well as small. The standard provides a framework for the risk management that include the following components. Out of this, the first is establishing the content and the context entailing establishing the objectives, scope and internal and external elements that could influence the risk management process. The second is risk identification. This process involves identification possible risk such as hazards, threats and opportunities that might have an influence on the organization's objectives. The third is risk analysis and assessment. Risk analysis and assessment include determining the possibility and the possible consequences of the risk that have been discovered as well as the relevance of those risks to the organization. Risk treatment entails creating and putting into practice the plans to control or lessen the risk that have been recognized, such as avoiding, shifting, accepting, or minimizing the risk. Next is your risk monitoring and review. So this entails a continuous evaluation of the efficiency of the risk management process, including the detection of fresh dangers or modifications to the old ones. So the integration of the risk management into a company's overall management system and the decision-making procedure is very crucial. So according to ISO 31000 standard, additionally, it emphasizes the need of a structured approach to risk management as well as the participation and engagement of all the stakeholders. Then we have a COSCO ERM framework. The COSCO ERM framework, that is the Enterprise Risk Management Framework, offers the instructions for creating and putting into effect the risk management plans that are in line with an organization's goals and the risk tolerance. So we call it as COSCO ERM framework. The framework highlights the need of an organized and methodical approach to the risk management and offers a number of elements and the concepts to help in creation of a successful risk management plans. So following are the few methods the business can employ to apply the COSCO ERM framework. The first is creating a culture of risk management inside an organization. So the COSCO ERM framework emphasizes the need of doing this, and this entails raising the employee knowledge of risk and motivating the staff members to incorporate the risk management into everyday tasks at all levels. Then we have a recognizing and evaluating the risk. Organizations may utilize the COSCO ERM framework to recognize and evaluate the risk that have an impact on their goals. And to do this, risk assessment must be conducted, prospective risk and opportunities must be examined, and the risk must be prioritized based on likelihood and the potential effect. Thank you very much.